Welcome to C3, everyone. My name is Jason. I'm one of the pastors here. I want to offer a special welcome first, because we always do it last, first to those of you who are joining online, and a special shout out to the Tennessee trucker who is not just in Tennessee, it's a long haul trucker. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman, but they tune in every week to our services. So Tennessee trucker, wherever you're at, we see you. Be safe out there, and we look forward to having you here in person. Those of you in West, those of you over in East, thank you very much for being here. We're in week 3 of our series on the book of Ruth, the book of the Bible. It's not its own book, it's in the Bible. And we're going to finish up the story, and then next week when Pastor Doug gets back, he's going to take us back to an earlier part of the story. Now again, 80-some verses. You probably have read this already, and so you know the part that he's going to talk about. And we see this in movies and other stories all the time where things get told out of order a little bit. So hopefully we're not spoiling anything for next week. But we're going to move through chapters 3 and 4 today and finish up talking about the relationship that we see developing between the main character, Ruth, and Boaz. Today we're going to talk about defining the relationship. You ever had one of those seasons in your life where you're just really disappointed with where you're at? I am the grocery shopper in our family most times. If I have a list, I'm not allowed to go without a list. But when I have a list, then I go because it's hard. There's a whole other story about that one, about communicating your grocery list. But anyways, my wife trusts me enough to go to the grocery store, and you've seen this magazine at the check stand, right? Even in the digital age, they still pump this thing out. And boy, he is a handsome man. My goodness. Usher, who, I'm sorry if I just caused you to stumble out there, but he is. And it's no better on the back, Joe Manganiello, who, wow, gee whiz, that's not even photoshopped. It's this fascination with celebrities, with other people's lives. And even if you're going to the grocery store feeling good about yourself, you walk past the check stand and you go, man, that Usher, he's got it going on. And then you start flipping through, and celebrity after celebrity, all these famous, beautiful, rich people who and then we get to the middle and it's Taylor and Travis. Oh, the perfect, their super love story. Oh, why does my marriage have problems? They have a super love story. And all of a sudden, we're disappointed with our humdrum everyday life, relationships, health, money. And it's almost like we like it, because we keep buying these things. We keep scrolling through them. Even if it's not famous people, maybe it's just the people you know who are visiting some foreign land, who got to see some cool show or go to some cool restaurant, or, their relationship just looks so great. And look at their kids. I mean, they wash behind their ears, and I bet they don't say bad words and get good grades and all of this kind of thing. And all of a sudden you're just like, why am I in this season of my life? And for a lot of people, we know that it's no laughing matter. We know that this season of your life might be really painful, relationships and otherwise. Maybe you never, ever imagined that you would be single in 2024, but here you are. Maybe you never imagined that money would be so tight in 2024, but here you are. That the marriage would be so strained right now in 2024, but here you are. That the person you're dating, you're not really sure where things are at, where they're headed. You need to define the relationship. It's confusing, it's stressful, there's pressure, there's expectation a lot of times, you just don't know where to land a lot of times. And in those times of disappointment, it's very important to step back and, first of all, acknowledge where you are, but also to realize that a lot of the people that we focus on when we're feeling bad about ourselves or disappointed with where we're at, we're just looking at a snapshot of where they are today. Usher has 4 children, and he's burned through 2 marriages already. So yeah, he's got it going on, but at what cost? And I don't know about Travis and Taylor, their story's still unfolding, but some of these other people, they don't have the perfect life we project onto them. We're just getting a snapshot of what that looks like today. But it's really easy to get swept up in all of that. Today, what I'd like for us to do is to really ask a very important question, whether the feelings you have are real or not about your season of life. Maybe you have it really well off. It's just a matter of cultivating some gratitude and appreciating what you have. Or maybe you are just in this season that just feel like, God, there's got to be more. Maybe it's your relationship with him. Maybe you're coming here this morning just feeling like there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And you're wanting that, but you're not sure what that looks like. It's really important to think about how you're going to navigate this season. And if you're not there, maybe you've come out of a season just like that and you have some wisdom to share with other people in a small group or just out in the lobby in between services. Or maybe you're getting ready to head into a season like that and you kind of feel it coming, but you're kind of hoping maybe it'll wait another month or so. But if you find yourself in that place right now where you're just trying to live day to day or week to week through some of the routines that maybe just leave you feeling kind of flat at work, at home, just wherever you are, you're just kind of like, man, what's next? That we not always put that outside of ourselves. A lot of times we want circumstances to change for us to feel better about ourselves. And what the Bible's going to teach us today is that you can't always count on that. We're not all going to win the lottery. We're not all going to get to play the halftime show at Super Bowl. We're not always going to get the girl at the end of the Super Bowl game. That's probably not in the cards for you, but there are some things that you can take ownership of in these seasons of life where you're not sure where things are, to gain clarity, not just for you, but for other people in your life, so that you can walk through these seasons with confidence and that your faith can actually grow. We don't have to wait until everything clears up before we really trust in God. These are the times where we test that faith. Yes, some of you know this full well because you know that you've walked through these times. So some people ask, well, why are we even talking about the book of Ruth? Well, some people know that typically in the month of February around here, we focus on relationships, romantic and otherwise. Everybody has relationships, so don't sit here and say, oh, it's that sappy love story in the Bible. The word love is actually only used twice in the book of Ruth. And it's not Boaz leading Ruth over saying, oh, my darling, I love you so much. And Ruth saying, oh, Boaz, you're the man of my dreams. I love you so much. There's no dialogue like that in the book of Ruth. The word love is only used twice, which tells me that what's true in romantic relationships and marriage relationships and dating relationships and all is probably true for the rest of us. And in that way, Ruth's story and Boaz's story is a lot like your story. And it's a lot like my story. There's a lot of uncertainty through the contours of their story, that they have to make decisions. They don't sit back and just wait for things to happen. They take action on those things. And so that's what we're going to look at today. Big idea as we're moving through. I just want you to keep this in the forefront of your mind. We're going to plow through a lot of the narrative today. So get your reading glasses out, and I'm going to have you maybe kind of either virtually or otherwise highlight some things as we go along, and we'll do some running commentary. But your big idea for today is this: the decisions you make today will determine the story you tell tomorrow. You know this is true. We don't like to admit it sometimes, but the decisions you make today will determine the story you tell tomorrow. Here's the good news. Even if you don't get it right, God can still make it right. I'm so glad for that last part right there, because I can think of all kinds of decisions that I thought maybe I was making the right decision, but it didn't really work out very well. And still, just like with GPS, you miss a turn. What does GPS do? It reroutes you and gets you back on track. God is every bit that kind of guidance in the life of a person who looks to him in faith. And so that's where we want to head today as we work through Ruth chapter 3 in chapter 4. We spent a little time in Ruth chapter 2 last week. And as the story progresses now, we know that Ruth and Boaz have met up. Ruth came from the land of Moab, which was her home territory, but it was outside the boundaries of where the people of Israel were supposed to not only move, but intermarry. And both of those things happened for Ruth's in-laws. I was going to say her family, but her in-laws, Elimelech and Naomi, who had moved there, married off their 2 sons, and Ruth was the daughter-in-law. All of the guys died. Naomi and Ruth head back to Bethlehem in the land of Judah, back to Naomi's territory, but Ruth is a foreigner. And she establishes a good reputation for herself as a hard worker, somebody who was devoted to her family even after her husband had died, her loyalty to Naomi, and they're in this place. And a landowner named Boaz takes note of that and sees her working, and they begin a relationship that is very basic as you read it. It's basically a lunch date where they share some food and kind of have a little bit of conversation. And then we don't read very much between the rest of chapter 2 and chapter 3. The rest of the harvest goes by, 7, 8 weeks, I don't know, and nothing. It's like Boaz has ghosted Ruth. What's that? You know, any woman in that situation would be like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Did I do something wrong? Did I, what happened? Well, this is where we're going to pick up the story. Because there's this connection. I mean, you can kind of read sparks flying as they're having a meal together and at least some interest. Boaz notices Ruth. Ruth knows who Boaz is because he owns the land, but she's noticing how he conducts himself too. So let's get into the text. Ruth chapter 3, the first 9 verses here. We'll go for it here. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, so this is after this 7 or 8 week period of hearing nothing, Naomi steps in and says to Ruth, my daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. Now, Boaz is a relative of ours, not like first cousin type in the family clan. Let's widen it out. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. This is a process where they separated the wheat from the chaff, and it's this giant circle. You can Google, these things are these massive circles. This is where they would go about this process for the whole crop, for the whole harvest. Massive undertaking. Here's what she tells Ruth. Wash. Ladies, I'll just say, if you're having trouble in your dating relationship, this is probably a good place to start. Go ahead. Wash. Put on perfume. Just trust me, go for it. Get dressed in your best clothes. This is what Naomi is telling Ruth. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. So they were going to have a harvest party down there, him and the guys from the field probably. Here's what Naomi continues to say. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying, then go, and this seems very weird, uncover his feet and lie down. Highlight that. We'll come back to it. He will tell you what to do. And Ruth says, I will do whatever you say, Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. Let's keep going. When Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, take that any way you want, he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet. Can you hear the music behind all this? And lay down. This cracks me up. Who says God doesn't have a sense of humor? In the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. Yep. Who are you? He asked. I am your servant Ruth, she said. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. Now, highlight guardian redeemer. I told you last week we were going to explain what that meant. We're going to get to it. Here's what Boaz says. He's so taken back by Ruth's proactivity. Says, the Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it's true that I am a guardian redeemer of our family, there is another who is more closely related than I. So that's going to be problematic, but we'll come back to it. Let's keep reading. Stay here for the night, And in the morning, if he wants to do, the guardian redeemer, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. And in the back of my mind, he's like, please do, don't do it. Please do, don't do it. I want to be the one. I want to be the one. Lie here until morning. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, no one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor. This is a very weird strategy. I doubt any of you in your courtship with your person, especially ladies, if you came into wherever your guy was sleeping and just laid down at his feet, uncovered him, and then when he woke up said, I'll do whatever you want. I would say the Bible here is more descriptive, not prescriptive. Can we just say, yeah, okay, this is not dating advice. This is just what happened. Naomi said, look, honey, he's not calling. It's time for you to pick up the phone and help him out. Let's face it. Some of us in relationships are not the sharpest tools in the shed. We need a little help. And I can only imagine if I was Boaz, and we get from the text here, he probably was a little older than her. He probably was thinking, what's a girl like that ever going to see in a guy like me? And it probably seemed too good to be true. Some of you have felt that way. I mean, I'm like a lot of guys in here. I married up. And so the fact that my wife took a second look at me, I'm still like, are you sure, honey? So we need a little help sometimes, a little nudge. And so Ruth gave that nudge. Here at this threshing floor, and she appeals to something that is antiquated for us. It's the guardian redeemer. The guardian redeemer was somebody whose job it was, responsibility, or in this case, opportunity, to provide security for a needy family member. This was the obligation. It's written into the communal law of things. This guardian redeemer, if somebody in Ruth's situation whose husband died, somebody else in the larger family was supposed to step up, and there was a pecking order there as far as who was first in line to do so, to say, okay, I will make sure this person is cared for, and if it's necessary, I will continue the family lineage through them. Basically, we'll have some babies. Just taking one for the team, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. The way Boaz describes this, he's willing to do that, but he had no idea Ruth wanted him to do that. And in a very real sense, by her going in and laying down like that, she's not just proposing to him, she's actually trying to make it his idea to propose to her. In this culture, she couldn't propose to him. What she's saying is, hey, big boy, if you want to do this, it's all green lights on my end. Okay? May I suggest, if you are having problems in your relationships right now, I wonder how clear you are communicating your intentions. Or are you trying to make the other person be a mind reader? Let me tell you, I don't have to go chapter and verse on that. That does not work. Your significant other, your best friend, your children, your parents, they're not mind readers. You are not a mind reader. You have to be overt and express what it is you want. You have to take a risk and put it out there. Does that mean the person will accept what you have to say? Not necessarily, but you cannot sit there and have the feelings you're feeling, the thoughts you're thinking, the wishes and desires, and keep it to yourself and expect the other person to just figure it out. That does not work. And for some of you, that's worth the price of admission already this morning, because you're like, oh, yeah, I've been living in my head this whole time about wanting to move or wanting to get married or wanting to, whatever it is. You have to have the conversation. And you don't have to go down to the harvest in the middle of the night and lay your head down at the person's feet and say, hey, we should talk. That's not necessarily what needs to happen, but you need to quit playing defense and quit expecting the other person to know what you want all the time. All right, so let's keep going with the story, because what we said was Boaz was not the closest relative. There's somebody else in line, and Boaz knows this because he knows who the person is. Family, clan, small town, they're going to know each other. But he says, okay, there's somebody else in line, but I'll take care of it. If this person wants to close the deal, I don't have any ego in the game. Do you see what character this guy is? This is not false pretense. He literally is like, I care about you so much, Ruth. Sorry, I don't know how to have a conversation with a woman. Pretty people make me, nervous. But now that I know where you're at, I'm so excited to get to do this for you. But even if I'm not the one, at least I know you'll be taken care of. That's a man. That's what a man looks like. That's the heart of a good person. So here's what he does. The night passes, Ruth goes off. I don't recommend staying overnight, somebody you're not married with. That just creates all kinds of drama. Again, descriptive, not prescriptive, but it happened, and the Bible's pretty honest, if nothing else. But let's go on with the text and see where the story takes us here. Boaz went up to the town gate, so this is the next day, and sat down there just as the guardian redeemer, who never gets named, by the way, he had mentioned, came along. Boaz said, "Come over here, my friend." Well, he knew exactly who it was. The writer chose to conceal the person's name. And we're going to talk about why that's important in just a little bit. He says, "Come over here, my friend. Sit down." So this is where business happened, right here at the city gate. Went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town who were already there and says, "Sit here." And they did so. Then he said to the guardian redeemer, "Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech," which was true. "I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of those seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you, and I'm the next in line." He's making a business proposal at the town gate, and this is all it took. You just had to have some witnesses, and there's a bit in here about exchanging sandals that I'm glad we don't do anymore, but it happened for them to kind of lock in the contract. Here's what the guardian redeemer says. "I will redeem it," he said. And I don't know how Boaz felt in this moment, but he was probably like, darn. And he had to think quickly, because this guy was going to carry it through, even though, yes, Boaz wanted Ruth to be taken care of, but he's like, let me pitch this a different way. And here's what he says. Look at this. Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite." That word probably stung in this guy's ears a little bit, but I think Boaz knew this. The dead man's widow, making it sound like some, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. He's pitching this guy what sounds like a bad investment with strings attached. Yeah, you get the land, but you also get the Moabite and the mother-in-law. At this, because it worked, listen, at this, the guardian redeemer said, "Well, then I cannot redeem it." And he's kind of backing out now, because originally he said he was going to, and all these elders hurt, and now he's like, oh, wait a minute, I got to do something before I get locked in on this. "Then I cannot redeem it because I might endanger my own estate." Oh, there we go, saving his own reputation there. "You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it." Well played, Boaz, well played. So he pitches this bad investment to Mr. No Name. This is what we would call in the Bible the hand of providence. It just so happened, and we see this play out in the book of Ruth. God is not a character who directly seems to intervene all the time, but there are these situations that seem to just sort of come about. As it happened, Boaz just happened to show up at the time where this guardian redeemer just happened to be at the gate. There was a moment of opportunity. A moment of opportunity. We're going to think about this here in a couple minutes when we wrap up the service, about moments of opportunity where God perhaps has been working behind the scenes in your life and in mine, bringing about his will in these places. God uses sometimes natural circumstances to accomplish his supernatural will. Some of you have seen this happen in your life. What's interesting to me is that it usually happens as we look back. It's much clearer in hindsight. And if you've not done that before and you're discontent with the place that you're at in life, may I suggest that you take a little look back and see if maybe this situation led to this decision, led to this decision, led to this move, led to this breakup, led to this relationship, led to this, and now here you are. Could it be that even if it's a crooked line, God can still right the ship? He can make things work out. Some of you have never done that in your life, and you're kind of upset with God because he hasn't caused all the good things to happen, but maybe he's been causing them all along, and maybe he's going to continue to do that, and maybe your story isn't over yet. Is it possible that where you're at right now is not the end of the story, that God's wanting to do more things in your life than just what has happened here and now? Boaz is in this situation where he has a moment of opportunity, and he takes it. And it works out for him. Let's see what happens next in the story. The elders and all the people at the gate said, "We are witnesses." This is the deal. "May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah." These are ancestors of Israel, "who together built up the family of Israel. May you have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem." They're offering their blessing on what is going to be a marriage. "Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." These, again, are ancestors who kept the line of Israel going. So, now last week I said take your time, and you might think I'm a hypocrite for saying, okay, well, this is a very weird engagement. It doesn't say it happened right away, but it did happen. Boaz essentially sealed in this deal that made him Ruth's guardian redeemer. And as a part of that, they were engaged to each other and they got married. Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The Lord enabled her to conceive. God's in the background allowing things to happen according to his will. And these elders give a blessing. And then the women said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." It's a great story. It's a great story. And the epilogue at the end of it begins to trace the lineage of Ruth and Boaz's child, and their child, and their child. And we see that that line continues clear to the throne of King David. And in the New Testament, I've mentioned this before, that lineage carries clear from King David to the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. Full circle. It took generations for that story to play itself all the way out. Folks, can you step back from your little life for just a second and imagine the place that you're in as a part of a much larger story? Where just because things don't all look perfect and pressed out right now does not mean that God is absent or inactive. That he's every bit as much sovereign right now in this season of your life as he ever was. He's still in control. He's still on the throne. And God can turn brokenness, even the momentary brokenness that you're feeling right now, into blessing. And that blessing can become a legacy. We get caught up in the immediate so much. This becomes our existence. And folks, let me tell you what, God's story is so much bigger than who played halftime at the Super Bowl. It's about a life of character. It's about decisions that matter, big and small, and a perspective that says, God, I don't understand what's going on right now, but I will trust you. The writers in the Bible were able to look forward and see what a difference that Ruth and Boaz's decisions and their character and their integrity made in the future of a whole nation. We don't have that part of your story yet, but we do have the part from where we're standing where we can look back and see where those stories intersect, and it is at the person of Jesus Christ. who in Romans 3:23, we get the picture of the human predicament. We're all here. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by his grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. God presented Christ as a sacrifice of atonement through the shedding of his blood to be received by faith. The good news that you and I have in any situation, any season of life that you're in right now is that Jesus has come to be your guardian redeemer. He has found you as a foreigner, away from your homeland, separated by sin, and he stepped into time and said, I see you, and I desire to be with you and for you to be with me, and I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. It's nothing that you or I could have done. He laid his life down freely, sacrificed everything. He gave up his life so that you would know that God's love for you is real and is available today. Now, we can talk about all kinds of other little nuts and bolts decisions. Yes, have the conversations. Yes, get your girlfriend flowers. Yes, take out the trash, all of these things. But I'm telling you, folks, if you don't surrender your heart and your life to Jesus Christ, you are missing the opportunity to make the biggest decision, not just of your life, but in the lives of generations moving forward. Have you made that decision? Do not wait. It's yours for the taking today. I want to invite you to stand. We're going to sing as we think about and pray about the opportunity that we have today through a simple prayer of confession and repentance, saying, God, I want to return to my home. I want to be yours. I want to be secure. I don't want to have to wonder all the time. I don't want to have to be disappointed all the time. I don't want to have to be looking outside all the time for something that you have made available inside of me by coming in to save me, to love me, to lead me the rest of my life and beyond. And I'm going to trust you with that, God. I'm going to trust you with my children's lives, my grandchildren, and future generations, because your story is not over, God. Your story is not over. You're going to work your plan through me, and my desire is that you work that out in coming generations. Can we agree upon that today? Let's sing as we respond.